Chapter 1. Tracking everything within 10 meters. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. Traveler, your system has arrived. Congratulations on getting the invincible tracking system. Xianxia was a little bored sitting at the entrance of Stone Village. Just as he was feeling down, a voice suddenly rang in his mind. Hearing this voice, Xianxia felt energized, immediately jumping up from the rock at the front of the village. System. A late plug.in BVEC. The current tracking system is level 1, and the host can track anything within 10 meters. When the voice in his mind continued speaking, Xianxia was so moved he could have cried. He had been in this world for 16 years. He originally thought it was a certain historical era, but when he was 2 years old, he saw someone flying in the sky. That was when he realized that this was a fairy world. As a result, the history he had majored in was useless, and he couldn't become famous by writing poetry. He didn't know physics and chemistry very well back then, so he couldn't do anything with science and technology either. The only way he got a second glance from area next door was when he did the bookkeeping. Unexpectedly, today, the plug.in had finally arrived. He didn't care about tracking or whatever, as long as it was a system. He had done nothing for more than 10 years. By now, he didn't care what it was. A person should be grateful. It was great to have a system at all. Anything within 10 meters. Is there a limit to the number of times it can be used? Xianxia asked in his mind. There's no limit to the number of uses allowed. The system will trigger hidden tasks for the host, upgrade hidden achievements, and occasionally reward the host, so please work hard. Then, the voice in his mind disappeared. Xianxia pondered over this for a long time. He looked at the barren village entrance, suddenly feeling a little helpless. The entirety of Stone Village was tenant farmers. Everyone was poor, so what could he possibly track? The wife of the village chief did seem to have a valuable piece of jewelry, but was he going to steal it after he tracked it? There was a good chance he would be beaten to death if he did. But he was in no hurry. Since it was a system, it must have its purposes. He had to develop it slowly. His top priority for now was to go home, so he could experiment with the system in peace. Making up his mind to do this, Xianxia quickly walked towards his home. His family was an ordinary one in Stone Village, and his parents were tenant farmers. Although they were not rich, his family was harmonious and could be considered happy. When he returned home, his parents were still farming outside, and weren't home yet. Silently in his mind, Xianxia said, "Track the money at home." In the cabinet, 3 meters away, are 120 coins. This was where his family kept their money. Xianxia knew it well, and his parents did not hide it from him. Under the bed, 4 meters away, are 40 coins. What? Xianxia didn't know about this money at all. It was in his parents' room, just 4 meters away. Could it be his father's hidden private money? Xianxia thought about it carefully and concluded that it was really possible, so he immediately walked to the next room and looked under the bed. After searching for a while, he found a small cloth bag with 40 coins. Indeed, there is money. Xianxia thought to himself, then returned the cloth bag to its original place. More prompts continued to arrive in his mind. Go forward 5 steps and dig 10 centimeters underground. There is a rusty copper coin. Hearing this reminder, Xianxia eagerly took out a small shovel and started digging. It didn't take long for him to find a rusty copper coin. After thinking for a long time, he faintly remembered that he had lost such a coin when he was a child. It was his New Year's gift money, and he had been upset for a long time. Since I have this system, maybe I could go to the county to pick up money for a living. Xianxia couldn't help thinking, but he wanted to slap himself immediately after this idea was born. As a time-traveler with a system, how could he be so pathetic? This would be an embarrassment for his time-traveling predecessors. At this moment, a voice rang from the system in his mind. Achievement completed. Using the system for the first time. Reward earned. A chance to track anything within Sichuan County. Hearing this reminder, Chen Chen couldn't help but think of picking up money once again. The entirety of Sichuan County must have a lot of lost money. Pfft. How could I want to pick up money? I've come to this fairy world, of course I need to find a way to cultivate immortality. Chen Chen settled down and didn't use this opportunity immediately. Who knew when he'd be able to track such a large area again? It was such a good opportunity, he didn't want to waste it. He'd have to wait until he was thoroughly familiar with the system before using it. And it must be used for cultivating immortality. In this fairy world, a big fist was the last word, and those who were immortal had the biggest fists. However, the number of immortals was very small. In Sichuan County, only the county magistrate may have some level of cultivation. Squires, landlords, etc. were, at most, ordinary people who had a little bit of ability. In the past, Chen Chen had nothing to do with cultivating immortality. For ordinary people like him, they would be pretty lucky if they saw a flying fairy even once in their lives. It was as likely as seeing a UFO in his past life. Now that he had a system, Chen Chen wanted to climb to the top of this world, of course. It had not been easy for his parents to raise him all these years. Now that he had turned on the protagonist mode, it was time to repay them. They couldn't be tenant farmers anymore. It was more cost-effective to pick up money from the ground than to be a tenant farmer. Chen Chen continued experimenting with the system while thinking these random thoughts. Search for a fairy and show it to me. There is no such creature within 10 meters. Search for a beauty and show her to me. There is no such creature within 10 meters. Is it possible to track anything else that's valuable? Go forward 6 meters, turn 3 meters, lower your head, and you will see something valuable. Chen Chen was a little surprised when he heard the system's voice. He had just been asking as a joke, but there actually was something. His family was poor, with only 100 or so coins in savings. So where was the valuable object? Deciding not to think about it any longer, Chen Chen quickly followed the system's prompts and found the place. It was his family's pigpen. The big, black pig in the pigsty was a bit tired and currently sleeping. And under his feet, there was nothing but a pile of manure. System, you are tricking me. Do you think sh*t is valuable? The feces of a mutated pig, once consumed after an illness, can increase one's lifespan for 3 months. Chen Chen was completely speechless when he heard this information from the system. Unexpectedly, Lao He, the pig living in his own house, was a little mutated. Simply by chance, he also produced feces that could increase lifespan. Chen Chen had to admit. Things that increased longevity were indeed valuable. But he couldn't eat feces. He was only 16 years old, and he didn't need a lifespan this much. He couldn't sell the feces either. He couldn't exactly hold a lump of feces and tell others, "Brother, let me show you a treasure. Look, this is a lump of mutant sh*t. If you ate it, you could live 3 months longer." Chen Chen was willing to bet that if he did this, others would beat him to death. So this pile of feces, ugly on the outside, but extraordinary on the inside, was destined to be buried. The power system in this book, ranked from low to high. Mortal, Qi training, foundation building, golden core, primordial soul, primordial spirit, imaginary training, joined body, Mahayana, immortal. The typical person during the Qi training period goes from 1 to 10, and the big realms of foundation building and golden core and later are divided into 4 small realms. The early stage, the middle stage, the late stage, and the peak. Chapter 2. Who loves me in a radius of 10 meters? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. Chen Chen sighed inwardly. There were probably many similar treasures in this world, but their ordinary appearance concealed their true powers, making them useless from their birth to their destruction. If you were a piece of grass, I could grit my teeth and eat you. But you are feces, so I just can't do it. Chen shook his head, ignored the pile of feces, and started experimenting with the other functions of the system. Before he knew it, the sun had gradually gone down and it was now evening. The tenant farmers returned home with their farm tools. System, find me the most handsome person within 10 meters. Host, please look in the mirror. Hearing the system's answer, Chen took a look in the small bronze mirror at home, feeling quite satisfied. After looking in the mirror, Chen's expression changed. He had been so busy today trying the system, he had forgotten to cook for his parents. Just as he was about to anxiously wash the rice, his father, Chen Shan, and mother, Qin Ro, arrived home. Dad, Mom. I forgot to cook today, Chen revealed, a little embarrassed when he saw his parents' tired faces. As soon as he said this, a loud voice suddenly came from outside the house, not giving his parents a chance to reply. That's okay, you can eat at your auntie's house today. The voice had come from a hefty auntie, who had just entered the room. This auntie was their neighbor, Aria's mom. Chen called her Auntie Li. Chen Shan and Qin Ro sighed when they heard the words. They really weren't in the mood to eat today. The harvest season was fast approaching, but the upstream dike had a problem. All of the fields in Stone Village had flooded, so there was almost nothing left for this year's harvest. How was Stone Village going to pay the land rent? Not paying the land rent these days was a big deal. The lightest punishment was a beating, being driven out of the farm, and turned into a refugee. The worst punishment meant you had to sell your children, be exiled for thousands of miles, and never be allowed to live in peace. At that moment, Chen Shan suddenly spoke up, "Little Chen, why don't you marry Aria?" Ha! Chen was stunned when he heard this. Aria was only 14 years old. Although it was pretty common to get married at that age in this world, how could he, a good, young man with a socialist education, accept such a thing? Furthermore, ever since he was young, neither of them had anything in common, so why get married if there was no romantic love present? Aria poked her head out from behind Auntie Li, her expression timid. The tenant farmer's daughter wasn't pretty. She had healthy-looking tan skin, and a build that was on the thinner side. Seeing Aria's expression, Chen had an idea. Did the girl have a crush on him? Had she mentioned it to Auntie Li? Indeed, his temperament was very outstanding in this small village, so it would be normal to have a crush on him, but... System, who loves me in a 10-meter radius? After experimenting with the system for a bit, Chen was able to subconsciously ask this question in his heart. There are 3 targets. Chen's heart lurched upon hearing the system's answer. As expected, Aria had a crush on him. 2 of the 3 targets must be his parents. There were no parents who did not have love for their children. As for the other one, who else could it be but Aria? Or could it be Auntie Li? Being too outstanding was indeed a mistake. Chen murmured to himself, thinking about how to reject this not meant to be crush. At that time, the system began to locate the targets. 2 targets are directly in front of you. As for the other target, walk 2 meters forward, then turn left 5 meters. Hearing this prompt, Chen was stunned. Of course his parents were in front of him, but the other target's location didn't match where Aria was. Subconsciously following the system's prompts, Chen arrived at the pig pen again and stood in front of the pile of pig **t. He looked at Lao He, who was in the pig pen, while Lao He looked back at him. Man and pig stared at each other with wide eyes. At this moment, Chen had mixed feelings in his heart. Lao He the pig actually loved him. It was so touching. For some reason, he suddenly felt that Lao He, the black pig, had become gentle and good-looking, a kindness present in his eyes. Lao He, I didn't take care of you for so many years for nothing. I can't believe you're a little human now. No wonder you can produce such extraordinary sh*t, Xianxia said softly, walking to Lao He and patting his head. Lao He grunted twice, closed his eyes, and rubbed Xianxia's hand a few times, his expression showing enjoyment. Xianxia smiled when he saw this. His family had raised this pig for nearly 10 years. It was normal for him to feel connected to him. But if Arya didn't like him, why did his father talk about him marrying Arya? Thinking about this, he walked into the house again. Inside, his parents were talking to Auntie Li. When my family can't pay the land rent, we can still give up a pig to help deduct the payment. But your family. His mom, Qin Ro, looked at Arya as she spoke. Auntie Li looked ready to cry. The landlord of Stone Village was not very benevolent. If Auntie Li couldn't pay the land rent, they would most likely take Arya away and sell her to a brothel. She was a widow and didn't have much power. It had not been easy to raise Arya on her own for so many years. If Arya was sold, she would not survive for much longer. Outside the room, Xianxia had already guessed most of the matter. Obviously, there was a problem with the fields of Stone Village, and they could not pay the land rent this year. His parents were worried that Arya would be kidnapped and sold to a brothel, so they were offering to marry him to her. Arya's father had been kind to their family in the past, so his parents' decision was understandable. In this world, ordinary tenants could never leave the village, and their only potential marriage partners were the few peers in the village. It was very likely that his parents had originally planned to make him marry Arya anyway. If it was before, Xianxia would probably have accepted his fate. However, now he was a system-enhanced person who would become immortal sooner or later. Did he need to commit himself to marriage to solve someone else's problems? It wouldn't be fair to his status. Thinking of this, he went directly into the house and said, "Dad, Mom, is there a problem with the land rent? Don't we still have 3 days before it's due? In 3 days, I will raise the money needed for rent. I can do it. Land rent is more than 1,000 coins, how can you?" Qin Ro stopped talking. Xianxia waved his hand and said, "Mom, do you remember the accountant at Hefeng Pharmacy, in the county? He said that I have a talent for numbers and wanted me as an apprentice. I will go find him, maybe I can advance some pay." "But. No buts, I'm 16 now. I can't be at home all day anymore. Also, Lao He is a good pig, don't sell him." Xianxia said with a smile, running directly towards the entrance of the village. Stone Village was only 10 miles from the county, so he would probably be there when it got dark. "Little Chen. Maybe go tomorrow. It's not safe at night," his parents shouted with worry from behind him. "It's fine." Xianxia hollered, quickening his pace. It was easier for him to do things at night. As for safety, what was there to worry about? He was broke. Why would anyone want to rob him? Chapter 3. Life of Money. Picking. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. 10 miles of road was nothing to Xianxia, who was born in a village. After about only an hour, he had made it into the county town of Sichuan County. Sichuan County wasn't a big one, it didn't even have city walls. At night, apart from some entertainment premises, the rest of the place was immersed in darkness. "Is there anything valuable around here?" Xianxia showed up in entertainment premises with large streams of people, continuously utilizing the tracking system. He wasn't planning to go to places like the beggars' refuges. He probably wouldn't even find a fat flea in those places. Nothing within 10 meters. "Is there anything valuable around here?" 5 meters ahead, there's a lost jade pendant at the turn. Gained a lost jade pendant +1. "Is there anything valuable around here?" 3 meters ahead, at the seam of the road, there's a copper coin. 2 meters ahead, beside the wall, there are some lost pieces of silver. 5 meters ahead, there's a dropped pearl hairpin. In the bushes ahead, there's mutated grass. That night, Xianxia bustled about for several hours. Before dawn, he was carrying another bag on him. It was filled with all sorts of things, with a total value of perhaps more than 100 taels. Among them were more than 20 fragments of silver. In comparison to the 20 taels, the copper coins were almost negligible. In Sichuan County, 1 tael was equivalent to 1,000 pennies. In other words, the amount of silver that he had picked up that night was enough to pay the farm rent of about 20 families. The county town is wealthy indeed. The things they simply drop are enough to pay for a great deal of stuff for the villagers, Xianxia thought to himself. At the same time, he felt glad that he was not in the world that used QR code scanning for payments. Otherwise, he wouldn't ever come across money. But money.picking is also a one-time transaction. I'm afraid these lost things were only accumulated over many years in Sichuan County. As he shook his head, Xianxia walked toward the stone village. At that moment, he really was afraid of being robbed. However, Xianxia was just overthinking. Although he was carrying lots of valuable items, the way he was dressed did not bear the slightest bit of resemblance to the rich. Therefore, even though he had crossed paths with many people along his way to Stone Village, barely anyone took a second glance at him. This made him think of the piece of dung that was buried. Bah! What the heck am I thinking about? I have nothing to do with dung. Xianxia inwardly cursed himself. Upon returning home, it turned out that his parents weren't home at the moment. Usually, they would have gone farming by this point in time. However, the farmlands had been flooded at the moment, so what did they go out for? Without many second thoughts, Xianxia hid the items such as the jade pendant and the hairpin, and took out the cash, keeping them in a pouch. When he was done with that, he walked out of the house and went to Auntie Li's doorstep. Area. Is Auntie Li home? Where are my parents? Brother Chen, they have been summoned to the village chief's house for some discussions, Aria's timid voice replied from inside of the house. Upon hearing that, Xianxia went back home and waited in silence. He even took the chance to feed Lao He. Lao He snuffed his hand like it usually did and made some small noises. Xianxia smiled as he saw this, then said, "This pig is getting better and better at understanding humans, but it's a pity that you're only a pig. You can't follow me to go for immortality cultivation. After all, I can't be riding a pig to a fight when my opponents are riding dragons, can I? That won't look good at all. What do you say?" Oink. Oink. Lao He squealed with dissatisfaction as it ate the pig food. Xianxia wasn't sure what it was trying to express. Right at that time, a big group of people arrived at the entrance of the village, as if they were a flood wave. Xianxia spotted his parents at first glance, but their faces didn't look good. Only when the group of people got closer did Xianxia notice a young man in expensive clothes behind them. The young man had a black mole on his cheek and was wearing a look of arrogance, just one step away from having the word "villain" written all over his face. Standing behind him were about 7 or 8 sidekicks. All the sidekicks had long sticks in their hands, the looks on their faces extremely fierce. There are still 3 days left till rent payment, so why is he here today? Xianxia mumbled. He knew the young man. He was the oldest son of one of the 3 great families in the county town, known as Wang Feng. The farmland where the villagers of Stone Village farmed was a property of the Wang family. In this world, there were countless dynasties. The dynasty where Xianxia was in was named the Great Jin, with 36 states under its jurisdiction. Every state had 12 more cities, and Sichuan County was a county under the jurisdiction of Feiyun City of Ji State. To be one of the great families of a county wasn't a big deal in the dynasty, but they were a prestigious family in this county, something that peasants like them could not compare with. Even if the 3 great families murdered a few people in the midst of their rage, they would just have to pay some fines at most. Young Lord Wang, we will certainly pay the farm rent on time 3 days from now. You didn't have to come here in person. The elderly village chief followed behind Wang Feng, wearing a look of subservience on his face, pleading with him like a dog. Wang Feng wasn't bothered. Laughing, he said, what are you barbarians going to pay the farm rent with? Nothing more than selling this and that. Since you're going to sell your stuff anyway, I'll just look around and see if there's anything I need. That should be fine, right? It is. It is fine, the old village chief nodded awkwardly, continuing to follow on his heels. Who owns these chickens? Take some home and cook my mom chicken soup. As he walked, Wang Feng suddenly pointed at someone's hen coop. Upon hearing his command, a sidekick behind him immediately walked up to it and carried the entire coop on his back. Lord Wang, how much can these chickens pay off? The village chief asked gingerly. Just the interest. How much can a few *n chickens cost? Why? Do you disagree? Wang Feng shot a glance at the village chief, the thugs behind him brandishing the sticks in their hands. No. No, I don't. The village chief wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead. How dare he disagree at this point? If he did, the stick would find a way to his face. He was just a bag of old bones now. How would he be able to withstand it? As for the owner of the chickens, they kept quiet despite their anger. Chen Chen did not speak as he saw this occurring, but he had a feeling that Wang Feng was deliberately looking for something. Could he be looking for pretty women? But what pretty women would this *n village have? As far as Chen Chen could see, Auntie Li and his parents were worrying over nothing. With Aria's looks. Ahem, no one would want her. Right at that moment, Wang Feng's eyes lit up, and he made a gesture to one of his sidekicks with his mouth. The sidekick understood it right away. He dashed straight into a house, and not long after, he dragged out a little girl with braids, who looked to be around 10 years old. What are you people doing? Little Duo is only 9. A middle-aged man with a crippled leg emerged from the crowd and hurried forward to stop them, attempting to take back the little girl, but soon collapsed to the ground as a thug behind Wang Feng hit him with his stick. It's her blessing that our Lord picks her. What the heck are you yelling for? The thug cursed ferociously, making the faces of all the villagers turn pale. Even Chen Chen's eyes were filled with disgust. He never expected Wang Feng to have this kind of hobby. What a pervert. Chapter 4. An Evil Heart. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. No. Young Lord Wang, this is absolutely unacceptable. The village chief shook with anger, standing in front of the hobbled middle-aged man. A thug was about to beat the village chief but noticed that all the villagers had gathered around him. There were no fewer than 100 people. He backed down when he saw this scene. What are you doing? You want to rebel. You don't want to farm anymore. You want to be refugees. One thug shouted. However, none of the villagers backed down, many of them even took out their farm tools. They looked ready for a fight. Just when they were in a stalemate, Chen Shan, Chen Chen's father, suddenly stood up. He said in a deep voice, Lord Wang, go and ask your father. Does he not remember Longxing Mountain at all? Lord Wang's face changed at those words. His family was originally a small landowner. They only became big landowners because his father, Wang Hu, had made military exploits as a soldier, and was rewarded a lot of land by the county. And most of his father's credit was made at Longxing Mountain. Now this muddy peasant seemed to be saying it had something to do with his family. But no matter what, he couldn't do anything here today. Although this group of peasants was pathetic, that was precisely why they were not afraid of death. If they really made a big deal and he failed here, it would be too embarrassing. Thinking of this, he snorted coldly. Forget it. In 3 days, someone will come here to collect the farm rent. If you can't pay it, don't blame me for being ruthless. Our Wang family is always right. Let's go. He greedily glared at the little girl before ambling away. His group of thugs followed along, not forgetting to spit at the villagers before they left. After a while, the villagers all dispersed. Everyone went back to their house, trying to find a way to raise the land rent. Chen and Qin Ro also returned home. They were both relieved to see that Chen had come back safely. Qin Ro even tugged on Chen's ear as she complained. Did you have to show off how fast you can run? Don't run around next time, alright. There are too many bad people in this world. When she had realized Wang Feng's preference, she suddenly felt that it was too dangerous for her son to go out by himself. He was so good-looking, after all. Chen evaded his mom's hand with a sheepish expression. I know. But at least I found some money. What? Chen and Qin Ro exclaimed in unison. They were both extremely surprised, but before they could ask, Chen took the initiative to change the subject. Dad, what did you mean when you were talking to Wang Feng? Do you have some connection to the Wang family? Hearing Chen's question, Chen Shan's wrinkled face showed a glimmer of sorrow as he confided, 20 years ago, I went to join the army with Wang Feng's father. Dad, you two were war comrades? Chen asked in surprise. He had never heard Chen Shan mention anything like this before. Chen Shan laughed at himself when he heard the words. He explained, back then, Elder Master Wang was worried about his son's safety, so he forced a bunch of us tenants' sons to join the army too. Just so we could protect Wang Hu. The Longxing Mountain battle was brutal, all of the other tenants' sons died to protect Wang Hu, while he simply hid in safety. After the war, he even took my military merits and received a lot of rewards. What? How could this have happened? Chen's voice suddenly rose an octave, his eyes filled with disbelief. Although he had only been in this world for a few years and had very few opportunities to come in contact with the outside world, he knew how serious it was to steal war merits. How could Wang Hu dare to do such a thing? Seeing Chen's doubt and confusion, Chen Shan sighed and said, back then, our parents were in the hands of Master Wang. Why would we have desperately protected him on the battlefield otherwise? If I dared say anything about the stolen military merit, I was afraid that your grandparents back home would not see you before they died. Chen went silent for a while after hearing this. His grandparents had died when he was 2 or 3 years old. He was a time-traveler, so he still had vivid memories of the two elders. When your grandpa and grandma passed away, the Wang family had already become one of the most important families in the county. I was just a tenant, I didn't have any power, and I still had to support you and your mother. So I stopped thinking about all those military achievements and decided to live a stable life. If that Lord Wang wasn't so despicable today, I wouldn't have ever mentioned what happened back then. You probably don't know that little Duo's uncle was one of the tenant's sons who died protecting Wang Hu. The room became silent. Qin Ro helped straighten her husband's messy hair, and when she heard those words, her eyes became filled with tenderness. She was touched by how her husband was willing to let all of this go, just her and Chen's safety. Chen was also speechless. It was bad enough that the Wang family had stolen military merit. Now they also wanted to hurt the families whose sons had died for them. They were too evil. The more Wang Feng thought about it, the angrier he became on the way home. How could his magnificent Wang family lose out in front of a bunch of peasants? He couldn't bear the thought of it. Thinking of the lovely young girl, he became even more frustrated, his steps speeding up. When he arrived at Wang Mansion, before he even saw his father, he started to shout, "Father! Today I was bullied in Stone Village." Also, there was a villager there who was talking about Longxing Mountain. What is that about? As soon as he stopped talking, a middle-aged man rushed out from the back of the house, slapping his face without hesitation. "You misfit! What are you hollering on about?" After slapping Wang Feng, Wang Hu wiped cold sweat off of his forehead. This rebellious son of his really deserved a beating for shouting about Longxing Mountain so loudly. "Father! You hit me!" Wang Feng clasped his cheek in disbelief. "I really want to beat you." Wang Hu raised his hand as if to strike again but was stopped by a young woman who had arrived a few seconds earlier. "Father, don't hit older brother anymore. What has upset you so much?" Wang Hu's anger dissipated the moment he saw Wang Suqin, his daughter. His daughter was not a waste, like Wang Feng was. Not only was she extremely talented in martial arts, but according to the county magistrate, it seemed that she had the talent to cultivate immortality. Her potential was unlimited. Wang Hu became happy whenever he saw her. "It's not anything big. He just mentioned something from the past that he shouldn't have." "What shouldn't be mentioned?" "You have bragged about your exploits at Longxing Mountain so many times." Wang Feng was still confused. Wang Hu was about to hit his son again, stopped once more by his daughter. "Father, what happened? Please explain," Wang Suqin asked curiously. When Wang Hu heard those words, he became a little embarrassed. He pulled his two children into the inner house, only then telling them the story from the past. "Suqin, they were just a bunch of farmers. Isn't their merit my merit? If I hadn't led them to join the army, they wouldn't even have had a chance to do all of it." Wang Hu took those events for granted, not even mentioning the tenant's sons who had died for him. In his opinion, he deserved everything. After all, his status was that of a noble. Wang Suqin frowned upon hearing this, saying solemnly, "Father, you are doing this incorrectly." When Wang Hu heard his daughter, his face flushed red all of a sudden. He was about to argue with her and talk about the principle of respect and inferiority when Wang Suqin spoke up once again. "If this incident becomes known to others, it'd really damage the reputation of our family. Father, why don't you nip it right in the bud? If our family's reputation is damaged, how can I cultivate immortality? The death of a few pathetic people is nothing compared to the reputation of our family or my future. Father, you need to figure this out." Hearing this, Wang Hu's gaze stiffened, his expression soon becoming fierce. Chapter 5. A Pig with a Dream. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. Late night. It was pitch black at Stone Village. A black shadow quietly approached Chen Chen's house. This black shadow was Wei Laosan. He was a professional killer known for his skills and techniques, never missing. A well-known figure in the industry in Xianxia County, his nickname was Little Hell King. Looking at the pitch-black dirt house not far away, Wei Laosan felt insulted. Why would this shabby home need a veteran killer like him? It was an insult to his professionalism. Humph. If it weren't for the 30 taels of silver he would receive, he would definitely not accept this kind of job. It was too easy, even for beginners. Subtly, he got close to the wall of the dirt house and looked around. Then, he took out a sharp knife and began to gently pry open the window. In the dark, his movements were extremely subtle, almost inaudible. BNOL.M. What was professionalism? This was professionalism. Oink. Oink. Suddenly, there were a few grunts from the pig pen next to the house, which made Wei Laosan tremble. Damn, these peasants can't even feed their pigs properly. How are they worth 30 taels? My client is really blind. Complaining silently in his mind, Wei Laosan continued to pry the window. After a while, the window was open. There's no comparison to the windows of rich families, Wei Laosan thought to himself, gently opening the window. According to his plan, after this, he would silently sneak into the house and knife them, one after another, killing everyone in their sleep. After that, he would drift away without disturbing a single cloud. However, reality was much crueler than his imagination. Clang! A dull thud. The window he had pushed fell right onto the floor of the house. The window fell. At that moment, Wei Laosan was a little dazed. Even after so many years in the industry, he had never seen such a poorly made window. Just as he was at a loss for words because of his disrupted plan, a teenager got up from a bed in the house, walked towards the window, and looked at him with sleepy eyes. "Bro, what are you doing? The window is broken again. I just glued it up, you can't push on it." Chen Chen spoke groggily, but after seeing the knife in the other man's hand, he was shocked and became wide awake. Damn! A killer. After coming to, he hurried to the inner house. "Mom! Dad! There's a killer." Hearing his voice, Chen Shan suddenly jumped up in the back room. He had been in the army, and even after so many years, his movements were still extremely agile. After getting up, Chen Shan took a hatchet from the corner of the room and rushed out without saying a word. At this moment, Wei Laosan recovered. When the teenager had shouted earlier, he had made a lot of noise, and many houses nearby had already turned on their lights. Seeing this, he gritted his teeth and jumped into the house from the window. He needed to finish this fast. As a professional killer, in addition to various hiding and ambushing skills, he also had other skills. In his opinion, that was more than enough to finish off a few ordinary people. Dang! As soon as he entered the house, Wei Laosan and Chen Shan's weapons collided. In just one blow, he barely had the upper hand. Now he understood why this family was worth 30 taels in killing fees. "So you know some martial arts," Wei Laosan said solemnly. At the same time, he swung the knife in his hand faster and faster. Chen Shan had been retired from the army for 20 years. His martial arts was rusty, so he wasn't exactly a strong foe for Wei Laosan, who was a professional killer. In just a moment, he fell into a disadvantage and could only resist. "Little Chen, run away with your mom. Go get the village chief." Seeing that his father was in trouble, how could Chen Chen just leave? Running out of ideas, he shouted, "Bro, how much did the client pay? I will pay double." Wei Laosan smiled with derision. Damn! The pigs weren't fed enough, and the windows couldn't be fixed, yet they wanted to pay double. They weren't worth that much money even if they sold their own. However, while feeling contempt for them, Wei Laosan became slightly distracted, allowing Chen Shan to take a small breather. System. Anything nearby that can destroy this guy. In desperation, Chen Chen could only turn to the system for help. The system quickly replied, "Run 5 meters forward and turn left 4 meters. Hearing this answer, Chen Chen became overjoyed and ran out from the back door. He couldn't be more familiar with that place, and after a while, he came to his pig pen. That clump of manure was now air-dried. Who knew if it had any more life extension effect? Hum. At that moment, Lao He looked a little irritable in the pig pen. His 300 pounds body was swaying slightly, and his short limbs were constantly rubbing the ground, as if he wanted to rush out of the pig pen at any time. "Lao He. You're really giving me so many surprises." While talking, Chen Chen quickly walked to the pig pen and removed its railing. As soon as the pig pen opened, Lao He walked out on his short limbs. If it weren't for that funny pig face, Chen Chen would have thought that it was a tiger coming out of its cage. Hum. Lao He hummed twice at Chen Chen, his eyes looking very human. Chen Chen was very moved looking at Lao He. He saw a parent's emotion in Lao He. His father had the same look after he had been bullied by the village chief's grandson as a child. "Sending an assassin to kill my whole family. Great. You forced me into this." Chen Chen was feeling angry inside. Initially, when he was searching with the system, he wanted to find a fairy master or something so that he could be taken to cultivate immortality. Now it seemed to be pointless. He would use it after he took care of the killer. He didn't need to wait until tomorrow. He'd use it tonight. Otherwise, he wouldn't even have the power to protect himself, much less cultivate immortality. Lao He. Let's go. After Lao He got out of the pigpen, Chen immediately led him to the front of the house. Pang. A dull noise. A figure smashed through the door and flew out of the house. When Chen saw that it was his father, Chen Shan, he became extremely angry. Even Lao He grunted angrily a few times, his 4 short legs continuously rubbing the ground, like he was a bull about to charge. His old master had been beaten by someone. This wasn't okay. As a member of the family, he needed to come forward. He was a pig with a dream, looking after house and home. It was his duty. I didn't think you could last through dozens of my hits, so very good. But it ends here. An evil laugh came from Wei Lao San, who rushed out and quickly went towards Chen Shan. Lao He. Go and kill him. I'll make you braised pork later. Chen said angrily, pointing towards Wei Lao San, who had just walked out of the door. Lao He groaned when he heard the words, an angry pig cry sounding through the dark night. Then, it slammed its body, which weighed a few hundred kilograms, into Wei Lao San like an arrow. As if sensing something, Wei Lao San turned his head and looked in Chen's direction. What he saw almost scared him to death. But before he could react, Lao He slammed into his arms. Boom! A muffled sound. Wei Lao San felt as if he had been hit by the county magistrate's luxury carriage. His whole body hurt as he flew more than 10 meters in the air before plopping back onto the ground. Seeing this scene, Chen's eyes twitched. Chen Shan, who was sitting on the ground, was also dumbfounded. Lao He stood majestically on his 4 short legs in front of the house. At this moment, Chen inexplicably came up with a phrase. People fighting with pig power. Chapter 6. The Bells and Whistles, Methods of Empowerment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. The scene was quiet for a moment before Chen carefully approached it. By this point, Wei Lao San was already laying in the mud, his chest collapsed from the hard hit, inhaling less than it was exhaling, eyes filled with shock. Despite being a professional killer, he was somehow dying in the hands of a pig. This was not an acceptable end to his life, not in any way, shape, or form. At least not to him. According to his plan for his own life, one day, he would go and assassinate a king, making sure that his name would be forever remembered in history. After that success, even if he died on the spot, the price would have been worth it. From then on, the whole assassination industry would remember the great killer Wei Lao San, dubbed Little Hell King. No. By that point, the little should have been gone from that name. However, just now, he and his great dreams would die at the hand of a pig. Pig. Not as an adjective, but as a noun. He'd be killed by a literal pig. Shame of killers. Wei Lao San sighed in his heart, forever departing from the world in frustration. Noel.n. Chen, looking at the breathless Wei Lao San and Lao He, suddenly found himself speechless. How could a slightly mutated pig be so powerful, able to kill a man just by charging at him? Thinking about this, he couldn't help but raise his thumbs for Lao He. Bree! Bree! Lao He snorted as he majestically returned to the pigpen, just like how a successful individual left the scene, hiding both his name and fame. At this point, Chen's mother, Qin Ro, led the village head and others to the scene, all of whom were left speechless at the sight of the dead Wei Lao San. A moment's silence later, a villager spoke up, "Shall we report the death to the officials? Someone's ultimately dead." Chen Shan and Qin Ro remained hesitant. While they were villagers, they weren't exactly stupid, already having a grasp on the employer. No need to rush to officials, we can wait for some time, Chen suddenly spoke up. Compared to his parents, he was not only not stupid, but also very smart. He couldn't imagine anyone other than the Wang household hiring someone to kill his family. As that assassin had said, his entire household combined was not worth 30 liang of silver. Given that they haven't left the village for so long, they wouldn't have any chances to trigger someone that they shouldn't have triggered. In that case, who would send an assassin? Is Wang's household getting rid of our entire household from this earth just because father mentioned the past earlier in the day? That is just too vicious. After the baptism of the harmonic society, Chen was already viewing the world with maliciousness, but reality was teaching him another lesson. The bad guys of the world were even worse than his imagination. They are true professionals in repaying aid with a knife to the back. Let's wait this out a bit and disperse. We'll discuss in more detail tomorrow. First thing tomorrow, we will investigate that person's identity, and then we will report to the officials. The village head was seasoned and immediately understood Chen's intent. Only powerful households could afford assassins. If they were to report this occurrence to officials now, the officials may very well confiscate the body and frame someone from the stone village for murder. In that case, no amount of explaining would work. Therefore, for the sake of everyone's safety, the identity must be investigated in advance. Upon hearing the village head's words, the crowd dispersed, several strong males carrying the corpse to the ancestral hall of the village. Seeing all of this, Chen Shan and Qin Ro's faces were filled with deep worries. Was the Wang household intending to kill them? Could they even escape? They were just an average household of tenants. A household of powerful landlords such as the Wangs had countless means to crush them, including assassins. Inside the room, Qin Ro said solemnly to Chen Shan, "Father, we should really consider fleeing overnight. Even being refugees is better than waiting for our deaths in this village." Chen Shan was moved by this idea and soon spoke up, "Yes, we should pack up tonight and get going by tomorrow morning." Meanwhile, Chen was feeding Lao He in the pig pen. At this point, he felt somewhat uneasy. "Lao He, I think my parents are talking about fleeing. What would we do with you then? We can't flee with a big pig, it'd be way too obvious. Have you seen anyone fleeing with a flock of livestock?" Lao He snorted as it kept its head low, continuing to chew its food. However, Chen could see traces of reluctance and grief in his eyes. "You are a unique pig. I think you are on track to becoming a spiritual being." Chen laughed as he patted Lao He's head. He then steered the conversation away from that topic, his eyes turning much grimmer. Having been a person for 2 lives, his heart was far out of reach from that of an average youth. "Don't worry, I was just kidding. I will not flee unless it becomes the last resort." Lao He kept on eating. Looking at Lao He, Chen showed a smile of gratitude as he silently read inside his heart. System, mobilize the tracking opportunity within Sichuan County. I only want something that can make me strong very fast. Nothing else. Roger. Tracking begins now. There is a mutated mushroom under the stone stele at the village gate 100 meters away from you, consuming it increases your power. There is a red aquatic in the fields 320 meters away, consuming it increases your reaction speed. At 12.40, there will be a koi fish swimming midstream in a creek 3,000 meters away, cooking and consuming it improves your qualification of cultivation. At 1:52 a.m., rescue a lady below Zizai building in Sichuan County for her father to teach you martial arts skills. At 3 a.m., jump down Hafen Cliff, north of Sichuan County, with your head down for the big opportunity. Punctuality is required. Reading the more than 100 pieces of information in his brain, Chen was very surprised, his heart banging. However, some of the information was a bit too much, bells and whistles. There were so many means of becoming stronger in just a mere night. Were there really that many opportunities in the world? Whether it be eating grass, swallowing rock, having intercourse with a specific girl, tripping off, or anything else really. But then again, most of them only provided limited benefits. For example, the one involving intercourse improved kidney functions. Was that an improvement? Or was the system messing with him? Despite the amount of unhelpful information, Chen couldn't help but notice the last piece of information. Jump down Hafen Cliff heading down at 3 a.m. for the big opportunity. Even that cultivation qualification. Improving koi fish didn't count as a big opportunity. How big did this big opportunity, as the system said, have to be? Thinking about this, he became very excited. How amazing was it that a plot seen in novels, where the protagonist jumped down a cliff for opportunities, was now true. Calculating the time, he realized he'd have to move quickly. It was about midnight, 3 hours from 3 a.m., but Hafen Cliff was about 15 kilometers away from Stone Village. If he ran pretty fast, he could even get that koi fish on the way there. Without any further hesitation, Chen immediately rushed home, picked up a pot and shovel, and then dashed outside. "Xiao Chen, where are you going?" his mother shouted out in surprise. Chen doesn't turn his head back. Instead, he waved his shovel and said, "I am going to do some weeding and catch a fish." "Xiao Chen, wait a minute. There is something." "Mother. Father. Wait until I return. If I am not back by sunrise, go without me. I may be up to cultivation." Chen yelled as he dashed into the darkness. Chapter 7. Koi fish soup, served with toxic mushrooms, aquatics and rocks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. At the village gate, Chen dug out the mushroom at the stone stele. The mushroom was green and appeared visibly toxic, but trusting the system, Chen put the mushroom inside his pocket. He then went to the field and seized the red aquatic. After collecting those two items, Chen ignored all the opportunities around him and headed straight to the river, which was 3 kilometers away. One should not be too greedy, otherwise the grand prize may be lost. The most important opportunity was the cliff jump at the Black Wind Cliff. However, with 15 kilometers to go, time was of the essence. Were it not for the right direction, he wouldn't even take the koi fish. 3 kilometers was not much for Chen, who lived in a village household and regularly ran around for no particular reason. In about 20 minutes, he had reached the midstream of the creek. Calculating the time and finding that the koi was about 7 minutes away, Chen sat on a large stone at the riverside, resting quietly. "System, can you give me the precise time right now? I don't have a watch with me, and I don't know the time zone you're using." "It's 12:35 a.m. Chen was very relieved when he heard the response from the system. But then, looking at the stream, he began to frown. At this time of night, it was so dark without any lighting. In this condition, he couldn't guarantee finding 10 koi fish, never mind one. What about forfeiting this opportunity and going straight to Black Wind Cliff? Remember, Black Wind Cliff was over 10 kilometers away. If he were to miss the time window, he would be jumping to his doom. After a moment's consideration, Chen began to wade through the creek. By entering the creek now, he could at least cross the creek pretty quickly, even if he couldn't find the koi fish. What time is it right now? 12:37 a.m. Upon learning this, Chen slowed down. 2 minutes later, as the time approached 12:40 a.m., Chen looked upstream. He was stunned by what he saw. Under the darkness and inside the river, there was a koi fish swimming in the creek, its body illuminated like a beacon. Anyone with working eyes could see its uniqueness. "I am being dumb. How can this special koi fish be the same as an average koi fish?" Chen thought as he quickly blocked the koi fish's route. As that koi fish swam towards him, he tried to catch it with just his hands. Much to his surprise, the koi fish made a sudden jump, spiking several feet above the creek. It then promptly landed into Chen's pot. What? As he looked at the koi fish inside the pot, Chen suddenly found himself lacking the words needed to summarize the situation. He had heard of fish surrendering themselves into a web, but never a pot. Meanwhile, the beacon-like illumination on the koi fish disappeared after it landed into the pot. Through the moonlight present, Chen noticed the two rather suspicious string-like beards on the koi fish, making it nearly monstrous. Is the saying, "Carps leap through dragon gates" true? Sadly, little carp, I am your dragon gate, and you are not jumping across me. After that self-comforting thought, Chen packed up the koi fish, quickly crossed the stream, and dashed towards Black Wind Cliff. Before he knew it, Chen had already run several kilometers. In spite of his regular exercises in this life, he was getting a bit weary. Never mind the fact that his pants were half wet from when he crossed the creek, this was a double load. But then again, he can't just run without pants. Were he to be seen, he would always be remembered for running around without pants in his youth. System, is there anything nearby that can prevent me from being tired while running? No, Chen was not disappointed by the response. Since he could only track items within a 10-meter radius, it would be surprising to be able to find any item at all. As he crossed the 10-meter range, Chen asked again. He repeated the process multiple times, more than 1 kilometer passing by. Suddenly, the system gave him a definite answer. In the grassfield 7 meters to your left, there is a thing that can keep the user from being tired while running. Upon learning this, Chen became very excited, immediately veering towards the grassfield. He decided that he would consume anything other than feces if it would actually help him. After running for several kilometers, he was quite exhausted indeed. As he looked at the grassfield, he found a pair of green eyes that were especially frightening in the dark. Ruff! The low growl came immediately, freezing Chen's heart. It was a wolf in the wild. The system was trying to kill him. Before the wolf could feast on him, Chen dashed away, faster than the speed he came here at. The wolf, being interrupted in the middle of a dream, was quite mad, and dashed out as well. The man and wolf soon vanished into the night. 1 hour later. Chen leaned on a tree next to Black Wind Cliff, panting. Being chased by the wolf, he had indeed felt less tired. However, after he stopped, he was on the verge of collapse. System, please don't pull jokes like these on me ever again. My weak little heart can't bear it. The tracking system is highly accurate, as long as the user utilizes proper phrases, such awkward circumstances will not occur. The system's rebuttal left Chen speechless. While it was somewhat embarrassing to be chased by a wolf, Chen had reached Black Wind Cliff nearly half an hour before the jumping time. Under the night, the area was filled with a cold wind, which also froze Chen's heart. Black Wind Cliff was over 1 kilometer deep. Was he actually ready to jump? What if he died? Was the system serious about the opportunity? As all his questions flew away, only a sigh remained. Regardless, let me finish this meal. At least I will be a well-fed ghost. Chen stood up, walked to a pond near Black Wind Cliff to clean the koi fish, and washed the red aquatic and the green mushroom. In addition to those 2 items, he also got a thumb-sized piece of rock. Per the system, the rock can help with fatigue if consumed. In just a few minutes' time, Chen returned to the back of the tree, ignited a fire, and started to cook the fish. Or to be more precise, a soup consisting of toxic mushroom, aquatics, koi fish, and rock. At this point, etiquette was out of the question, never mind the fact that the pot was full of items that were beneficial to him. In about a quarter's time, the soup finally boiled. Without investigating the soup too much, Chen tentatively took a first sip. Suddenly, a sense of heat went through his entire body. The fatigue was gone. It doesn't taste superb, but it's a good thing indeed. Chen's eyes were immediately illuminated. He blew away the heat and continued to taste the soup. The wind at Black Wind Cliff was only increasing in speed, but Chen Chen was having a good time sipping on the soup. At that moment, there were suddenly sounds of fighting coming from the darkness afar, breaking the quiet of the night. Chapter 8. Hold on, people. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation, what's the matter? Upon hearing the sounds of fighting occurring, Chen Chen immediately extinguished the fire and swallowed the last bit of soup. Luckily the soup wasn't one that was delicious, so the scent did not emanate. Moments later, 8 figures appeared on Black Wind Cliff. Among the 8 figures, 7 of them were wearing nocturnal suits, not looking like decent people at first glance. They were beleaguering a young man in white like crazy. The 7 of them had pretty impressive martial skills, or at least more powerful than the assassin who had gotten killed by Lao Hei's snout. The young man in white was even more powerful, but fighting 7 people all by himself drained him out, nonetheless. Soon, he was cornered at the edge of the cliff. Lord Zhang, why'd you have to be so stubborn when you already have your back to the wall? If you fall from the cliff, you'll die an even uglier death than if we kill you. If that happens, your parents won't even be able to recognize you. Wouldn't that make them sad? One of the 7 men in black admonished the figure in white kindly, but the blade in his hand was ferocious, aimed for the young man's vital spots with every strike. The young man in white did not say a word, continuing to resist rigorously. Gradually, he got closer and closer to the end of the cliff. Chen Chen, who was witnessing the scene from behind a tree, was stupefied. Lord Zhang. Could he be the son of one of the 3 great families of Sichuan County, the Zhangs? If not, which young man from an ordinary family would be so proficient in martial arts, especially at such a young age? Sichuan County had 3 great families. The Zhaos, the Zhangs, and the Wangs. Among them, the Zhaos were the most powerful, the Zhangs were next in line, and the Wangs, who had risen most recently, were the weakest. At that moment, as Chen Chen watched what appeared to be the young lord of a great family being hunted down, he instantly felt much better. Peasants did not live an easy life, but neither did the young lords of great families. Chen Chen did not think much of it, nor did he think of stepping forth and putting on an act of bravery. He had a clear understanding of his own capabilities. Therefore, he only wished for the group of people to end the fight soon and leave, so that they wouldn't ruin his great cliff diving plan. System, how many minutes left until it's time to jump? 3 minutes. Upon hearing this, Chen Chen's mood turned gloomy. That opportunity couldn't have belonged to this Lord Zhang to begin with, could it? Otherwise, why would he be here at this point of time? Lord Zhang, you'd better not jump off the cliff. This is my opportunity, not yours. Chen Chen silently prayed to him. He was counting on this opportunity to turn over his fate. There was no way he would give it away to someone else. On the other hand, the word opportunity implied destiny. If he got to know where the opportunity was in advance due to the help of the system, it meant that he was destined to come across the opportunity. If it was destined for him, it would definitely be his. If there had to be a reason, this was it. Stop forcing me. I will jump off right here, and if I don't leave a single piece of bone behind, you won't get the money either. Right at that moment, Lord Zhang yelled from the edge of the cliff, his eyes filled with resolution. The killers were intimidated by his words, which weakened their resolve to attack, and for a moment Lord Zhang seemed to stand a chance at breaking through the siege. As Chen Chen saw the scene, he heaved a sigh of relief. However, the heartening scene was short-lived. The lead killer noticed that this wasn't right, and his attack became vicious once again. Brothers, no need to worry. Even if he turns into minced meat, we can take just about anything from him and report on our mission. Upon being reassured, the killers cornered Lord Zhang at the edge of the cliff once again. Chen Chen was indignant. These people really had no conscience. All they did was force people to go to extremes. Black Wind Cliff was 1,000 meters in height. Was it a laughing matter to jump down from it? System, how much time is left? 1 minute, the system replied mechanically, as if it didn't have the slightest bit of emotion. Chen grew more and more flustered. At this point in time, he understood that if he did nothing, that Lord Zhang would most probably jump off of the cliff. Head down, even. There weren't that many coincidences in the world, to make it so that the opportunity occurred at this point, and Lord Zhang happened to turn up at the edge of the cliff at this point as well. The only explanation was that this opportunity was meant for Lord Zhang. Could his name be Zhang Wuji? Chen was frustrated. There were people that were blessed by the heavens in this world, and this Lord Zhang was obviously one of them. No more delaying the inevitable. Force him down the cliff. The lead killer couldn't hold it in anymore, bellowing out the command. Under the coercion of the killers, Lord Zhang's feet stepped over the edge of the cliff. A loose rock plummeted into the chasm under his feet, and there wasn't the slightest echo. One could see just how incredibly high this cliff really was. Chen's heart skipped a beat as he watched, but the look on his face turned firm and resolute the very next second. He could not possibly obtain an opportunity like this if he didn't fight for it. If he couldn't seize the opportunity, he wouldn't be able to strengthen himself. If that happened, his family would still be hunted down by the Wangs, and the consequences couldn't possibly turn out well for them. It would end his life at most, so why shouldn't he give it a whirl? Having thought that, Chen did not hesitate any longer. He jumped out from behind the tree, his face concealed. Hold on, people. With a loud yell, all the killers, along with Lord Zhang, stopped in the midst of their fight, standing still in shock. After all, they did not expect to see someone else on the Black Wind Cliff in the middle of night. Sir, who are you? The lead killer asked in a low, deep voice, the murderous desire within him no longer controllable. How could he not be shocked and frightened to see someone else at the scene of a murder? If this guy recognized his voice in the future and pointed him out, the Zhangs would certainly put him in deep trouble. I am from Wudang, Zhangcuishan. Chen replied in a cold voice. Despite his youthful voice, it sounded formidable, without any anger. The killers exchanged glances, making sure that none of them had heard of this name before. However, since his surname was Zhang, and he had shown up here in the middle of the night, he was most probably someone from the Zhang family. Having thought of that, the killers raised their guards higher than before. However, Chen spoke again at that moment. Today, I came here to share with you a principle. As he talked, Chen walked toward the killers, his gait calm and composed. Upon seeing this, the killers became anxious. This man must be a top-notch expert, to be so fearless and calm, shouldn't he? In this world, the only principle is a big fist. The lead killer said in a wicked voice. A tinge of fear had also risen within him at the sudden appearance of this masked man. Apart from that, there's another principle in the world, which is that everything has to be done in the correct order. Do all of you understand? Chen approached them as he spoke. While the killers were baffled, he sped up abruptly and dashed toward the edge of the cliff. Kill him. The lead killer thought that this guy was going to launch an attack upon seeing his action, issuing the order right away. However, not a single one of them dared to charge, getting into a defensive position instead. Was he kidding? This man who had turned up out of nowhere did not seem like one that was easy to deal with at first glance. What if they got killed due to charging first? The tension within Chen broke off as he saw the scene before his. He darted right for the edge of the cliff and took off with a jump. He leapt to a height of 1.5 meters before plummeting from the cliff face down. Today, I, Zhang, committed suicide here. Farewell everyone. As he finished speaking, Chen plunged from the cliff like a shooting star. God *****. God *****. As he was falling, Chen felt miserable. All he could hear apart from the sound of the wind, was the incessant repetition of God the asterisk and it from the cliff. Chapter 9. World's Treasure. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. The winds howled in the valley and Xianxia's heart was an expanse of hollowness. He felt as if he was a mayfly in the middle of a vast wide world, going where the wind took him. Right at that moment, his leg got tangled up with some vines, his speed slowing down abruptly. However, the vine broke very soon, and Xianxia's fall continued once again. Another strong gust of wind blew within the valley, making Xianxia veer off to one side, hanging amidst countless vines. It felt as though he was lying on a hammock. I am alive. Xianxia heaved a sigh of relief internally. Although he felt as if his skeleton was falling apart, being alive was a blessing all on its own. He didn't expect to fall from the cliff and remain unscathed in the first place. Right as he was musing about this, a beam of light gradually appeared beside him. It was as if a lamp had been lit next to him. Xianxia turned around to look, realizing that an enormous blossoming flower in the seam of the cliff was bearing its fruits. The fruit was filled with some unknown matter, which was emitting a light that grew brighter and brighter with each passing second. This must be the opportunity. Right. Xianxia thought to himself, his eyes turning scorching hot. He had never heard of luminous fruits, neither in his past life nor in this lifetime. This must be some kind of world's treasure, without a doubt. Xianxia suppressed the excitement within him and began questioning the system. Where is the most valuable item within the nearest 10 meters located? It is with you, host. I, the system, am the most valuable. I am a priceless treasure. Upon hearing the reply, Xianxia's face darkened, but he continued his inquiry with patience. What about the second most valuable item? It is in the seam of the cliff 1 meter ahead, the primeval fruit of ethereality. The fruit is only born once every 3 millenniums, and it disappears from the world within 2 minutes after being born. If consumed, it can alter the nature of the ordinary human body into one that is most suitable for immortality cultivation, the primeval ethereal entity. One can then enter the primeval realm of chi training. Treasures like this are often hard to come by and much begged for, but only people with big opportunities will be able to obtain it. Upon listening to the introduction, Xianxia took a big gulp of air, staring at the evolving primeval fruit of ethereality, his eyes ablaze. In the meantime, he silently marveled at how miraculous destiny was. If he hadn't dived from the cliff head first, he wouldn't even have had a chance to get tangled by the vine. And if he had been just a little bit late, he wouldn't have come across the strong gust of wind, and without the wind, he wouldn't have ended up in this spot. Among the 24 hours within a day, if he had chosen any point in time from the rest of the 23 hours, 59 minutes and 50-something seconds to jump off the cliff, all that would have been awaiting him would have been death. However, these few seconds gave way to life. And that slim chances of survival happened to coincide with the 2 minutes in which the primeval fruit of ethereality was born, only once every 3,000 years. The probability of coming across such an opportunity was infinitely close to zero. The world was an immense place, no one knew just how many opportunities there were to come across the primeval fruit of ethereality. However, Xianxia could be certain that if there were 100 opportunities like this, 99 of them had been missed. After all, people with big opportunities weren't big cabbages. How could there be so many of them? From now on, all of these opportunities will be mine. Xianxia gave a soft sigh. Gradually, the bearing process of the pristine white fruit of ethereality was complete. The light within it began to dim, and its appearance became ordinary. Xianxia did not give the fruit of ethereality a single chance to disappear from the world. He reached out and grasped it, and in less than 10 seconds, he had swallowed the fruit like an animal devouring its prey. Shortly after, a sense of ethereality began to effuse through him, emanating a celestial aura around Xianxia out of nowhere. The discomfort from jumping off the cliff a while ago seemed to have vanished within seconds. Fabulous. Chen couldn't help but scream. In that moment, he felt as if the heavens were giving him a massage. It was comfortable to the extreme. He could even feel some kind of metamorphosis happening inside him, very clearly too. The wind in the valley no longer felt ordinary, but livelier and more effervescent than ever before. A unique, light blue stream of air slowly entered his senses. Is this ethereality? As he perceived the distinguished streams of air, Chen felt as if a door to a whole new world had opened up before his eyes. With the shift in his thoughts, the streams of air entered his body like rivers flowing into an ocean. In that moment, Chen felt some switch inside of him being turned on as ethereality began spilling into his limbs and bones like a deluge that had unleashed from the dam, changing him with energy from head to toe. This process went on for a full 2 hours. When the first ray of daylight appeared at the edge of the sky, Chen finally opened his eyes. The world before him had become so much more vivid and exuberant. Chen could even see the small, fine stones 1,000 meters below the cliff. Such vision could be compared to that of an eagle. The immense energy in his body made Chen feel as if he could climb the steep walls of Black Wind Cliff with ease. The practice of martial arts is only an enhancement of skills, it cannot surpass the limits of mankind. Cultivation, however, is an enhancement of life status. The two of them are not at all on par with each other. As he sensed the changes inside him, Chen came to realize some things. Shortly after, his back shuddered slightly and he sprung straight from the vine, holding on to the sheer precipice of the cliff. A few minutes later, Chen was standing on the edge of Black Wind Cliff once again. At this moment, his state of mind was completely different from what it had been last night. Looking at the bottomless valley, not only did he not feel fear, he even had the spectacular feeling of being on top of the world. Host, you have completed the achievement of finding a big opportunity through the system for the first time. The tracking radius has increased from 10 meters to 15 meters. Chen's lips curled into a small smile when he heard the notification in his mind. He watched the sun rise in the distance, standing with his hands behind his back. System, let me ask you, who in the nearest 15 meters has the highest status of cultivation? It is you, host. Your current status of cultivation is the first tier of Qi training. Good, very good, Chen praised himself. Before this, the county magistrate had been the only person in Sichuan County with some cultivation. Unexpectedly, he had risen as the second person in Sichuan County with cultivation. Now that he recalled the people who were fighting last night, he found them rather ludicrous, as if it had been a group of children fooling around. That Lord Zhang must have run away. Chen looked around, not finding even a drop of blood or a single bloodstain. When he was dangling from the cliff wall last night, he had come up with his own conclusions because he could hear the sound of anything falling. In fact, it would be quite unreasonable if he did not manage to run away. Lord Zhang had been granted such an opportunity, so how could he have been so easily finished off by a handful of killers? He did not think about it any further. Chen walked to the tree where he had hidden last night, grabbed the wok and the spatula, and quickly took off, running in the direction of Stone Village. Last night, it took him 2 whole hours of running while being chased by wild wolves to reach Black Wind Cliff in a half-dead state. However, today, he saw the stone tablet at the entrance of the village after just half an hour of running. He wasn't even breathless or puffing his cheeks. It was a breeze to him. As he looked at the wok in his hand and the stone tablet in the distance, Chen couldn't help but laugh. The wok was still that same old wok and the village was still that same old village, but he was no longer the ordinary man he had been last night. Chapter 10. Come to the government office with me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Translator. Dragon Boat Translation Editor. Dragon Boat Translation. As soon as Chen reached the village, he saw a couple of men on horses. Looking at the men on the horses, Chen thought to himself, they're already here. So impatient. At the same time, his steps quickened, not taking him long to reach his house. At this time, many people had gathered by the door of the house, including a few constables in uniforms. The body of the killer from yesterday had been removed from the ancestral hall and placed in front of the door. A constable with a mustache was checking the body with a knife on his back. Xianxia quietly blended into the crowd, watching the scene before him. The pig killed him. That's nonsense. I have hunted for many years and I've never heard of domestic pigs killing anyone, the mustached constable sneered, touching the collapsed chest of the corpse. Hearing his unkind tone, Xianxia knew that these men did not mean well. Upon looking into the crowd, he immediately noticed an older man dressed in traditional clothes, pale and beardless. He was looking at the body with a gloomy expression. Xianxia knew this person. He was the steward of the Wang family. Named Wang Heir, he was responsible for collecting land rent over the years. So the killer from last night was sent by the Wang family, Xianxia thought to himself. He had just been guessing last night, but now he was almost certain. It was easy to understand why Wang Heir wore an ugly expression on his face. In all likelihood, this man had come with the constables to collect his family's bodies. He hadn't expected to see the killer's dead body when he arrived. His expression couldn't have been very pleasant. I think this is a traveler who was passing by. He probably just wanted to spend the night, but this family had evil intent and killed him. Wang Heir said in a strange tone. Of course he had recognized the body, he had hired the man himself. The job had cost him a few dozen taels. Now that the waste of space was dead, he had to find some way to squeeze some value out of it. The mustached constable's eyebrows rose at those words. Although he had already been bought off by the Wang family, Wang Heir's story sounded too fake. Traveler. Were there travelers who wore ninja clothes? Steward Wang, if there are travelers passing by in the village, they usually stay at my house. It's much bigger. Nearby, the village chief squeezed out a smile. Yes, Xianxia's family is in the middle of the village. It's impossible for a traveler to go to his house. Besides, he is not dressed like a good person. He deserved to die, some villagers stated. Wang Heir's face became uglier when he heard that, shouting angrily, "You fools, what do you know? If you don't look vicious when you are out, what would you do if there was a bad guy?" Wang Heir's irrational words caused an uproar. At that moment, a young man ran up from nearby, shouting as he ran, "Village chief, I found out the identity of the dead man. His name is Wei Laosan. He works for the gang leader in the county, killing for a living." Upon hearing this, all the villagers looked at Wang Heir strangely. Wang Heir felt his cheeks get hot, but he maintained his tough stance. Can someone who specializes in murder be killed by this village? Or is there someone powerful amongst you pathetic lot? What a joke. The mustached constable quickly winked at Wang Heir, pasting a smile on his face as he said to Xianxia, "Xianxia, you look like a decent person. How about this? Your family will go to the government office with me to clear up this mess. If the deceased really was a bad person, the county government could potentially even reward your family." Xianxia answered in a huff, "My son left home last night and has not returned. I won't go anywhere until he returns." Wang Heir's expression changed drastically at the words. "That bastard of yours ran away. How dare he? Wang Hu's order was to kill this entire family, but now that one had run away. What should he do?" The next moment, he seemed to have thought of something, his tone suddenly becoming fierce. "I think he killed this man, then ran away in fear. Why would he run out in the middle of the night otherwise?" The constables nodded in agreement. Wang Heir had finally said something that could stand scrutiny. "You're saying nonsense. My son is innocent. He wouldn't kill a chicken in the village. How could he kill a person?" Qin Ro shouted angrily as she tried to explain. In her eyes, Chen had always been good-natured ever since he was a kid. He was the most sensible child in the world. How could such a well-behaved child kill anyone? Innocent. Ha! Who knows what he is thinking? If he didn't kill him, why did he run away in the middle of the night? Constable Zhou, now that the little bastard has murdered someone and escaped, I suggest we issue a warrant immediately. As for these two untouchables, since they protected the criminal and allowed him to escape, they should be arrested immediately and put in prison. As Wang Er spoke, he quickly bowed his hands at the mustache constable. This time, he was so confident, his sinister face actually looked a little righteous. However, as soon as he stopped talking, a wispy voice spoke up. What? I left for a little while, now I'm a murderer. Steward Wang, I don't deserve that charge. When the villagers heard his voice, they realized that Chen Chen had somehow been standing amongst them. The village chief also looked surprised. He had watched Chen Chen grow up, but the young man's temperament today was completely different from before, so much so that he did not notice Chen Chen earlier. You. The righteousness on Steward Wang's face disappeared without a trace. He pointed to Chen Chen angrily, unable to speak. Didn't they say that he had left last night and hadn't come back? Were they all fooling him? Chen Chen ignored him. He quickly walked up to his parents and comforted them, Father, Mother, it will be fine. Little Chen, you shouldn't have come back, Chen Shan sighed. Wang Er may have been defeated now, but to a powerful family like the Wangs, having their entire family killed off was effortless. He was just saving face and not pushing them to the edge yet. If I don't come back, you'd have been left behind. I couldn't do such a thing, Chen Chen grinned, as if he wasn't taking this situation seriously. Chen Shan and wife were touched, sighing at his response. Seeing that Wang Er wanted to say something else, Constable Zhou interrupted the moment. Well, since all three of you are here, you can all come to the county's government office with me. When we get there, everything will be cleared up. He really couldn't stand Wang Er as a teammate, he was too pig-headed. If he let Wang Er continue, he'd be ashamed of himself. They were just tenant farmers, they'd be theirs to punish at the government office. If they didn't want to wait, the Chen family could even be killed on the road, and they could put the blame on bandits. There was no point in trying to reason here anymore. Wang Er understood Constable Zhou's meaning, snorting coldly but not speaking anymore. He looked at Chen Chen's family as if they were already dead. These untouchables really didn't deserve any more of his effort. Qin Ro looked at her husband subconsciously when she heard the constable. Chen Shan frowned, unable to decide for a while. Chen Chen, however, smiled and said, Okay, we will go to the government office with you. Constable Zhou patted Chen Chen on the shoulder, praising him, Young man, you're quite reasonable. Your future is unlimited. He said this even though his mind was filled with contempt for Chen Chen. Moron. He has no future with this IQ. He deserves to be a farmer for life. Oh wait. Haha. Now he can't even do that.